that's not the greatest, then let them go because very little to operate. We have plenty of property there.
By the end of the day, he walks away with more gold. We walk away with more gold. I do what I do. Spend it. Those were the words spoken casually. Yet they foreshadowed the legend of Tony Beets, a man whose name would soon echo across the Yukon, not just for the gold he unearthed, but for the storms he left behind. When Tony Beets first appeared on Gold Rush Season 2, the world didn't know what hit them. The massive dredges, his booming Dutch accent, the no-nonsense attitude, it was all mesmerizing. Whispers began immediately. Miners exchanged knowing glances. Insiders raised eyebrows. Everyone was captivated, yet no one noticed the warning signs. They said, "Don't cross the king of the Klondike." But no one listened. And now, the story has unfolded into something far bigger than reality TV drama. This is the story of Tony Beets, the man, the miner, the father, the storm. Tony Beets was born on December 15, 1959, in Weidens, a tiny village in the Netherlands. To outsiders, it might have seemed isolated, almost forgotten. But for Tony, it was home. A small farming community surrounded by the quiet plains of North Holland, where hard work was not a choice, but a necessity. From an early age, Tony learned the value of labor. Complaining was useless. Only action mattered. In school, he struggled with the confines of classroom theory. Paperwork, lectures, and grades could not contain him. Tony thrived with his hands, with real tasks that produced real results. By adulthood, his dreams were bigger than the horizons of his small village. Modesty had no place in his ambitions. He craved a life that would break the mold of predictability. And then he met Minnie, a woman who matched his fire and vision. Together they dreamed of a world beyond Weidens. They married young, sharing the same belief. Comfort is earned, not given. And Canada, with its vast untamed landscapes, promised the adventure and opportunity their village could never offer. In 1984, with almost nothing but dreams and determination, Tony and Minnie uprooted their lives and settled in British Columbia. Work was grueling. Language barriers, financial struggles, and unfamiliar terrain tested their resilience. But quitting was never an option. During those formative years in Canada, Tony heard stories of the Yukon Territory. Gold-rich lands, frozen rivers, a chance for fortune. For most, it was a gamble. For Tony, it was destiny. The Beets family moved to Dawson City. Tony started at the bottom, learning the mining trade from scratch. Equipment operation, dredging, harsh winters. He absorbed every detail. It was grueling, punishing work. But Tony had found his purpose. The goldfields were not just land. They were the stage for his ascent. As the family grew, Kevin, Monica, Mike, and Bianca, Tony instilled the same relentless work ethic he had learned as a boy. Nothing came easy. Everything was earned. By the late 2000s, Tony Beets had evolved from a Dutch farm boy into a commanding force in the Klondike's gold mining world. The years of relentless labor, risk, and determination had transformed him into more than just a miner. He was a strategist, a tactician, and a leader. Multiple claims sprawled under his control. Vast dredging equipment dotted the landscape, and every operation he touched bore the unmistakable mark of his expertise. Yet, despite his dominance in Dawson City, the world beyond the Yukon remained unaware of his achievements. His reputation was formidable locally, but the broader audience, the millions of viewers hungry for adventure, grit, and drama, had yet to encounter Tony Beets. That changed in 2010, when the producers of Gold Rush sought a new dynamic for the show's second season. The first season had showcased Todd Hoffman and his crew, ordinary men, overwhelmed, struggling against the unforgiving Alaskan terrain. Audiences were captivated by the desperation and the thrill of inexperience. But producers knew something was missing: mastery. They needed someone who embodied expertise, someone whose skill and strategic acumen could elevate the stakes. Enter Tony Beets. At first, Tony hesitated. Reality television struck him as trivial, almost frivolous, compared to the grueling demands of running a gold mining operation in one of the most remote, unforgiving places on Earth. Cameras, scripts, and staged drama seemed worlds apart from the authenticity of dredges, permafrost, and hard-earned gold. Yet the opportunity was undeniable. Exposure could open doors to investors, expand his operations, and cement his status as a force to be reckoned with. By 2011, Tony stepped into the spotlight, and the world watched as his arrival reshaped Gold Rush forever. His presence brought an air of authority and intensity previously unseen on the show. Every move, every decision, every heated interaction carried weight. Viewers were captivated not only by his mining prowess, but by the larger-than-life persona he projected. The combination of brilliance, ferocity, and raw authenticity. What began as a cautious experiment in television exposure quickly became a transformation, both for the show and for Tony himself. He was no longer just a miner in the Yukon. He had become a television icon, a symbol of ambition, skill, and the relentless pursuit of gold in a world where fortune and conflict went hand in hand. On camera, Tony was electric. Booming voice, thick Dutch accent, uncompromising standards. When equipment failed, when rules were broken, he exploded. He cursed. He demanded. He enforced discipline. Fans were captivated. They saw a man who knew his craft, who expected excellence, who refused mediocrity. But behind the authority was a storm. Tony's temper was legendary, capable of creating chaos, fear, and absolute compliance. Mentorships, rivalries, and conflicts became central to the show's narrative. Parker Schnabel, initially a student under Tony's guidance, clashed repeatedly. Ego met ego, forging some of the most gripping tension in reality TV history. Family dynamics were equally turbulent. Kevin Beets, yearning for autonomy, found himself at odds with his father's unyielding control. Midway through season 14, frustration boiled over. Kevin walked away, leaving behind the family operation he had hoped to inherit. Mike Beets faced a different trial, mishaps and mistakes under immense pressure, constantly tested by Tony's exacting standards. The family, crew, and viewers all bore witness. Tony's pursuit of perfection often came at the cost of relationships. Respect was given, fear was enforced, loyalty was bought, but love and admiration were fragile. In October 2014, Tony's rising notoriety crossed a line from television spectacle into real-world legality. During filming, a crew member, on what seemed like a whim, poured gasoline into a dredge pond at Indian River and set it ablaze. Tony had given his approval, seeing it as a bold display of dominance and power, a Viking baptism meant to impress viewers. On screen, it was cinematic, adrenaline pumping, and unforgettable. Behind the cameras, however, it was illegal, a flagrant violation of the Yukon Waters Act and environmental regulations designed to protect fragile waterways. Responsibility fell squarely on Tony, the man at the helm, the one whose signature meant accountability. When the fine of $31,000 finally landed 3 years later, it served as a stark reminder that the world of gold, grit, and reality television was not without boundaries. For Tony, the incident revealed something deeper about his philosophy. Rules were flexible, applicable only when they didn't impede his operations or profits. The man who thrived on control, precision, and dominance had made it clear. Loyalty and fear within his crew mattered far more than bureaucratic restrictions. Yet, for the Discovery Channel, the situation was a goldmine. Every eruption of temper, every brush with the law, every confrontation became a narrative device to capture audiences. What could have been a career-ending scandal transformed into dramatic television. Tony's fire, literally and figuratively, was harnessed as content. Editors meticulously curated the footage, emphasizing tension, heightening suspense, and making viewers feel every scorching moment as if they were standing beside the blazing pond. In that moment, Tony Beets became more than a miner. He became the embodiment of chaos and brilliance intertwined. His legal misstep, rather than diminishing his stature, elevated it in the eyes of the audience. Drama sells, and Tony, intentionally or not, delivered it in spades. Every shout, clash, and heated argument morphed into ratings gold, feeding the appetite of viewers eager to witness the extremes of ambition, risk, and authority. The incident exposed a harsh reality. The world may hold rules, but in Tony's Yukon, the line between law and spectacle was dangerously and profitably blurred. Tony Beets wasn't just a reality star, he was a symbol of old-school mining rigor in the modern era. Massive equipment purchases, multi-million-dollar ventures, and colossal dredges showcased mastery. When Tony brought a 75-year-old dredge back to life, the audience witnessed engineering genius and sheer willpower in real time. He mentored, he challenged, he dominated. His crew, though loyal, navigated a complex mix of respect, fear, and financial incentive. The patriarchal authority that once built his empire now drove much of the show's tension and drama. Relationships with other cast members ranged from mentorship to outright conflict. Todd Hoffman was a lightning rod for Tony's disdain, seen as inexperienced, reckless, and undeserving of respect. Every interaction was a study in authority, ego, and mining philosophy. Even family dynamics became compelling drama for audiences. Kevin's departure, Mike's mishaps, and repeated clashes underscored the complexity of a man who had built a fortune through discipline, aggression, and vision, but struggled to translate those qualities into nurturing relationships. With reality, television came unprecedented visibility and relentless scrutiny. Every decision Tony made, every flare of temper, every hard-won triumph was broadcast to millions, dissected by fans, critics, and commentators alike. Nothing remained private. Even the smallest misstep was magnified, replayed, and analyzed as if it defined the man himself. For some, this was a nightmare. For Tony, it became a new battlefield, one where he could assert his authority, demonstrate his skill, and, if he chose, exploit the platform to expand his empire. Tony quickly learned to navigate the dual reality of television. Be authentic in your work, but let the cameras capture the drama. He leveraged the show to highlight his operations, negotiate better deals, and attract investors, all while remaining the same uncompromising figure who had built his empire from scratch. Yet behind the scenes, the constant presence of cameras amplified pressure. Every interaction with family, crew, or rivals was now layered with performance. The line between genuine emotion and spectacle increasingly blurred. Producers were meticulous in editing, crafting narrative arcs that amplified tension. A 5-minute disagreement could dominate an entire episode, transformed into a storyline of betrayal, challenge, or confrontation. Tony's volatility became not just a personality trait, but a defining feature of the show. Packaged as authenticity, consumed as entertainment, audiences came to equate his anger with passion, his exacting standards with discipline, and his stern demeanor with toughness. The admiration was real, but it masked a subtle, often unseen cost. The toll on family, friends, and crew who lived under his uncompromising expectations. Discovery Channel reaped enormous benefits. Every outburst, every feud, every clash sparked conversation, drove engagement, and fueled social media debates. Tony's highs and lows, his brilliance and his abrasiveness became the lifeblood of the show's identity. Viewers cheered his victories, held their breath during conflicts, and returned week after week, drawn not only to the gold, but to the man whose grit and volatility shaped the drama. Yet behind the ratings and the spectacle, a deeper story remained. A story of a man whose drive, passion, and relentless pursuit of success came at the personal cost of strained relationships and endless public scrutiny. A cost few could see, but all could feel through the lens of the camera. Tony's children, especially Kevin and Mike, bore the brunt of his high standards. Kevin's desire for independence clashed violently with Tony's need for control. Every decision Kevin made seemed scrutinized under the harsh lens of his father's expectations. Mistakes, even minor ones, were met with disappointment, raised voices, and, at times, public admonishment in front of the crew. For Kevin, this constant pressure became suffocating. A battle not just for professional respect, but for personal space within the family he loved. Mike's struggles were no less intense. Early in his mining career, he had shown promise. Yet a few critical errors, like the accidental flipping of a $300,000 wash plant, threw him into the whirlwind of his father's exacting standards. Despite his experience and dedication, Mike faced relentless criticism, leaving him to navigate the emotional fallout while still trying to meet the impossible benchmark set by Tony. The weight of expectation was relentless, and every misstep carried the threat of tension not only at work, but at home, as family and business were inseparable in the world of the Beets empire. Yet within this storm of discipline and strict expectations, fleeting moments of pride shone through. When Kevin succeeded in mastering a particularly challenging operation, Tony's nod of approval, sometimes just a word, sometimes a rare smile, carried immense significance. These instances revealed a father who, though stern and unyielding, was capable of deep love and pride. Viewers could sense that beneath the gruff exterior, Tony's actions were driven by a desire to see his children excel, to forge them into strong, self-reliant individuals, much as he had forged himself in the unforgiving Yukon. The Beets family saga thus became a powerful study of the cost of ambition. An empire built on grit, sweat, and unwavering determination came at a personal price. Loyalty was earned, mistakes were punished, and love, though present, was complicated, often hidden behind a curtain of discipline and the roar of machinery. Tony's influence extended beyond his own operations. The Gold Rush expanded, following multiple crews across Alaska, Yukon, and even Guyana. Parker Schnobel, Rick Ness, and Todd Hoffman became household names, all shaped by the standards and pressures Tony set. By season 15, equipment and operations had grown exponentially. Multi-million-dollar wash plants, massive excavators, and industrial-scale mining became the norm. New miners entering the show were guaranteed fortune, but only if they survived the environment, Tony's standards, and the unrelenting pressures of reality television. Tony Beets became synonymous with grit, determination, and relentless pursuit of success. His name evokes images of massive dredges, frozen rivers, and a man unafraid to challenge anyone who questioned his authority. Tony's empire was carved from cold earth, hard labor, and unwavering willpower. Success came at a cost: fractured family relationships, crew tensions, and public scrutiny. Yet, every ounce of gold dug from the Yukon proved one truth: perseverance pays. Drama, tension, and conflict were part of the package. But so were legacy, expertise, and vision. Tony's story reminds us that greatness often comes with sacrifice, and leadership is a balance between fear, respect, and genuine guidance. As Gold Rush continues, the world watches. New miners, new challenges, and new drama await. But Tony Beets' influence endures. He is the king of the Klondike, for better or worse, a man whose life and work exemplify ambition, resilience, and the complicated path to success. In the end, Tony's story is more than gold. It's about family, legacy, and the relentless pursuit of dreams, even when the world stands in the way. And perhaps that is why fans can't look away. Every ounce of gold comes with a price. Every choice leaves a mark, and every empire has its cracks. Tony Beets remains an enigma. Brilliant, volatile, driven, and deeply human. For those who watched, who cheered, who argued, and who feared him, one thing is certain: he reshaped the modern gold rush forever. What do you think about Tony Beets' work methods? Could you survive under his leadership, or would you walk away like Kevin? Comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories of grit, gold, and drama.